The Blizzard City Command Center remained sealed within Guman's immense black cube barrier, impervious to the tens of thousands of converging troops who dared not risk heavy explosives with Zhu Zhang inside. Outside, the Reincarnation Squad and the newly arrived Celestial Squad clashed brutally, the four captains deliberately separating their duels to spare their subordinates from lethal shockwaves. Inside the solo domain, Ji Yushan and Sun Luxuan engaged in a savage, bloody stalemate. Sun Luxuan fought with pure, desperate killing intent, every strike aimed at breaking free to protect Zhu Zhang, yet Ji Yushan met him move for move. Gao Changkong had simulated this exact confrontation 82 times, feeding Ji Yushan exhaustive analysis of Sun Luxuan's habits until a draw was the optimal calculated outcome. Ji Yushan's role was purely defensive, buying time rather than seeking victory. The far more terrifying duel unfolded between Deng Shintong and Gao Changkong. Gao Changkong, no longer hiding his strength, wielded the Heavenly Dance Treasure Wheel's treasures, the immovable king armor for impenetrable defense and the Sun Will sword for overwhelming offense, resembling a Buddhist guardian deity. Deng Shintong, a master of Western foil since childhood, thrust his slender blade with precision, but Gao Changkong anticipated every feint and parry effortlessly. Invoking the fearless lion seal, Gao Changkong summoned a three-headed lion phantom from the wheel whose roar shook space itself, rupturing Deng Shintong's organs and forcing blood from his mouth. Deng Shintong, stunned that his prized close combat mastery and feigned death tactics were utterly transparent, demanded how many times Gao Changkong could use his deduction. Gao Changkong laughed, reactivating the Zen meditation seal, declaring he would constantly mend the shifting future like a patchman, ensuring victory as long as information flowed. His plan: kill Deng Shintong, then Zhu Zhang, then escape Blizzard City unopposed. At that moment Zhang Yi arrived, perching near the crystal coffin barrier. He opened a channel to Zhu Zhang, feigning anxious urgency while his eyes remained coldly calculating. He invoked the parable of the potmender who secretly widens a crack to earn greater reward. Zhang Yi was waiting for the situation to deteriorate further before intervening, maximizing his leverage. He ate supernatural rations while monitoring the battle via earpiece. Ji Yushan and Sun Luxuan were deadlocked, but Deng Shintong was collapsing under the Heavenly Dance Wheel's four seals. Gao Changkong leveled his Sun Will sword at the fallen investigator, sneering that Deng Shintong's status and adoration stemmed solely from his birth as the Deng family's young master. Deng Shintong's pride was mercilessly crushed as he coughed up blood and was sent flying by Gao Changkong, crashing heavily in front of Zhu Zhang. The members of both investigation teams stopped simultaneously, with the Samsara squad smiling in unsurprised satisfaction while Zhu Zhang's team was gripped by deep fear. They had been fearless knowing Deng Shintong was behind them, but his defeat at Gao Changkong's hands was a clear case of inferior martial prowess. Zhu Zhang's voice trembled as he tried to appease Gao Changkong, offering to nurture him and perhaps make him the next commander, but Gao Changkong sneered, revealing that he had orchestrated the entire Eclipse Moon siege and had wanted to be the protagonist of the event. He had given up all illusions about Zhu Zhang, who had chosen an outsider of unknown strength to lead the charge instead of giving him a chance. Deng Shintong struggled to his feet, and none of the new God Squad members behind him retreated, declaring he would fight to the death. Gao Changkong mocked him, saying his potential had already been pushed to its limit by Deng's technology's ruthless methods, and even drugs would only hasten his death. Deng Shintong laughed with blood in his mouth and calmly took compound number 5, unleashing an even more powerful force. He raised his flower sword and released an unparalleled, terrifying power at Gao Changkong, who formed the fifth seal of the Heavenly Dance Treasure Wheel, condensing a huge treasure bottle that absorbed the attack. Deng Shintong gritted his teeth and continued his assault, causing a crack to appear on the bottle's surface. Gao Changkong's expression changed, and he summoned the immovable King Phantom to protect himself as the treasure bottle exploded, shattering the building's bulletproof glass and destroying much of the interior. The two captains fought to a standstill, both spitting blood from the exchange. Zhang Yi, watching from afar, stood up, declaring it was time for him to step in, like a hero appearing at the most crucial moment. He gripped the Holy Judgment, took a step forward, and instantly appeared outside the command center, hovering in midair with dark matter enveloping his sword like burning dark fire. His sudden appearance drew everyone's attention, and soldiers recognized the Tengu squad leader insignia, shouting his codename, Chaos, with excitement and relief. Zhang Yi ignored the shouts and swung the Holy Judgment, shattering the seemingly indestructible black barrier like glass. Light returned to the command center as dark matter surged into the building like raging fire, bursting into flames and enveloping the entire floor, surging towards the reincarnation squad members. Gao Changkong was shocked, unable to believe Zhang Yi had arrived so quickly after such a fierce battle. Zhang Yi hovered silently outside the building, looking down like a god, his spatial power now sufficient to defy gravity after absorbing the essences of several captains and vice-captains. He pointed the Holy Judgment at Gao Changkong, declaring he had come for revenge. The situation on the battlefield instantly reversed, and Zhu Zhang's heart calmed considerably, thinking that if Zhang Yi had arrived any later, they might all be dead. Deng Shintong, blood trickling from his mouth, accepted his defeat but found comfort in Zhang Yi's appearance, knowing Zhu Zhang wouldn't die because of his failure. Everyone looked at Zhang Yi with awe and gratitude, and his prestige among the high-ranking officials and ordinary soldiers of Blizzard City reached its highest level ever, with the word savior surfacing in everyone's minds. On the reincarnation squad side, the situation was becoming unfavorable, as Gao Changkong had been seriously injured by Deng Shintong's desperate attack. However, Gao Changkong used his reincarnation deduction ability again, focusing on Zhang Yi to see the future of this battle, and the corners of his mouth turned up because in the future he envisioned, he was still the ultimate winner. Gao Changkong stood atop the ruins of the command center, wielding the Sunwill sword, and arrogantly challenged both Zhang Yi and Deng Shintong to attack him together. He activated the Fearless Lion Seal, launching an attack toward Zhang Yi in midair, but his true objective was to seize the opportunity to kill Zhu Zhang and end everything. However, Zhang Yi's figure shifted instantly, teleporting directly in front of Zhu Zhang, and slashed out with the Holy Judgment, clashing fiercely with the Sunwill sword. Dark flames and golden Buddhist light collided, turning half the sky into two completely different colors, half dark like a demon falling from the sky and half golden like 10,000 Buddhas paying homage. The entire ceiling of the high-rise building shattered, fragments flying into the air, and superhumans below the vice-captain level were blasted away by the immense power. A fierce battle erupted below as members of the Yen Yun Guard, the city defense army, and the Heavenly God Squad surrounded and attacked the reincarnation squad members. Deng Shintong got up and attacked Gao Changkong from behind with his flower sword, while Lan Xinqing fiercely protected Zhu Zhang. Gao Changkong's gaze was cold, knowing he had no way out and had to kill Zhu Zhang to end the matter. Even facing two captain-level superhumans simultaneously, he felt invincible, declaring he had seen through their futures. He used his reincarnation deduction to learn about Deng Shintong and Zhang Yi's abilities and fighting styles, determining that Zhang Yi was the biggest problem. He activated the Heavenly Dance Treasure Wheel, intending to break through Zhang Yi's alternate dimension by exceeding its absorption limit. The Sunwill sword was raised high, and a terrifying energy storm surged forth, aimed directly at Zhang Yi and the entire building behind him. Zhang Yi sensed Zhu Zhang was behind him, and if he dodged, Zhu Zhang and Lan Xinqing would surely die. He couldn't let Zhu Zhang be harmed, as a new commander for Blizzard City might not be as advantageous to him. His gaze turned serious, and a dark light surged within his left eye as he activated Echoes of Time, a new ability awakened after absorbing Mayumi Takeuchi's essence. This ability granted him combat awareness, allowing him to anticipate attacks and find weaknesses in his opponent's attacks. His left eye's vision completely changed, revealing a world unlike anything he had seen before, and he instantly locked onto the eye of Gao Changkong's attack. Zhang Yi raised the Holy Judgment and used Blade of the Shattering Blade, condensing dark matter with the power of the void into a gigantic arrow that collided with the Sunwill sword. The black arrow pierced the eye of the storm, causing it to expand and burst like a balloon, the energies annihilating each other and creating only a storm that swept in all directions without affecting the area behind Zhang Yi. This single attack caused more than half of the entire command center building to collapse. Gao Changkong's pupils constricted sharply, unable to believe what he was seeing, as everything was completely different from the future he had foreseen. He had calculated that Zhang Yi would either dodge and let Zhu Zhang die, or use his alternate dimension to absorb the attack and shatter it, but a third possibility had emerged. What he didn't know was that Zhang Yi also possessed the ability to deduce, but his deductions were based on the rules of the Time Realm, a higher level of ability that made Gao Changkong's reincarnation deduction useless. Gao Changkong tried to persuade Zhang Yi, claiming they were both of humble origins and there was no need to risk his life for someone like Zhu Zhang, offering to reshape the order of the Jiangnan region together. But Zhang Yi only responded with a cold laugh, calling him a despicable traitor and declaring that Commander Zhu was wise and powerful, working for the future of the entire Jiangnan region. He accused Gao Changkong of destroying the fruits of countless people's hard work for his own selfish gain. These words were meant for Zhu Zhang, who was deeply moved and made up his mind to nurture Zhang Yi properly after the crisis. Zhang Yi then stated that Gao Changkong had set a trap to kill him in Tianhai City, and he couldn't let this go unpunished. Gao Changkong knew he couldn't persuade Zhang Yi, so he stopped talking and declared they would see who laughs last. He leaped toward Zhang Yi and Deng Shintong, fighting two opponents single-handedly, but his biggest problem was breaking through Zhang Yi's defenses. Zhang Yi wasn't an offensively oriented superhuman, but he could now wield the power of the void with greater proficiency, and his spatial power absorbed and reflected all of Gao Changkong's attacks. The heavily injured Deng Shintong was relegated to a mere bystander, which displeased him, but he was powerless to do anything about it. From an offensive and defensive standpoint, both Zhang Yi and Gao Changkong were a level above him, and with Zhang Yi present, Gao Changkong's plan to kill Zhu Zhang had become impossible. Zhang Yi's timely intervention thwarted Gao Changkong's objective of killing Zhu Zhang, and the situation was now increasingly unfavorable for him. He couldn't break through Zhang Yi's defenses, especially with Echo of Time, which allowed Zhang Yi to predict all his attacks. Echo of Time, a superior ability of the meditation seal, could suppress attacks from all angles and directly sealed Gao Changkong's deductive abilities. Not to mention Zhang Yi's monstrous defensive capabilities. At this moment, the entire Blizzard City's forces were converging on this side, and if this dragged on, the Reincarnation Squad's defeat was inevitable. Gao Changkong took a deep breath and decided to abandon the operation, shouting to all members of the Reincarnation Squad through the communication system that they were retreating. The team members felt a pang of sorrow, as they had come so close to succeeding, having practiced countless times for this day. They had considered every possible factor within Blizzard City, but they hadn't taken Zhang Yi, the outsider from the outer city, into account. Although somewhat regretful, they still returned together as Gao Changkong had instructed. The outsider, known only as the martial arts arena and whose true name was rarely known, opened a dimensional portal. Gao Changkong gave Zhu Zheng a deep look, then fixed his gaze on Zhang Yi, admitting that Zhang Yi had won this time and that he had underestimated him, but next time it wouldn't be so simple. Zhang Yi remained silent, but Deng Shintong approached, sword in hand, his gaze sharp as he stared at the spatial portal, which obviously led to a certain direction outside the city, the escape route the reincarnation team had prepared for themselves. Deng Shintong demanded to know if they thought they could escape, but Gao Changkong glanced at him with contempt, telling him he should thank Zhang Yi for saving his life, otherwise he'd be dead already. Deng Shintong became agitated but dared not act rashly, as he was indeed no match for Gao Changkong at this moment. He could only turn his gaze to Zhang Yi, hoping Zhang Yi would help him stop the person before him. Zhang Yi was equally decisive, lowering his gaze to his right hand, the dark flames of holy judgment spreading, and stated that he was also very skilled in spatial power, asking if they thought they could escape with him there. Others might not be able to do it, but Zhang Yi could destroy their spatial passage, and Gao Changkong frowned slightly. Just then, two people suddenly appeared in the air, Ji Yushan and Sun Lushuan. The two had fought fiercely in Ji Yushan's solo domain for a long time, but neither could gain the upper hand. Only after receiving Gao Changkong's order did Ji Yushan deactivate his abilities. Having grasped the current situation, he walked alone with his sword to the front of the reincarnation squad and told the captain to lead the others and leave first, while he covered their retreat. The team members' faces showed reluctance, because covering the rear meant he would have to wait until the spatial gate completely closed before the mission was considered over, and being left alone in Blizzard City would definitely mean death. However, no one could say anything more, as they had all been prepared to sacrifice their lives when they joined this plan. Every member of the reincarnation squad had risen from the bottom, personally trained by Gao Changkong, and every one of them hated the injustice of Blizzard City. If it were anyone else in their shoes today, they would have sacrificed themselves without hesitation to give their teammates a chance to survive. Gao Changkong did not refuse Ji Yushan's suggestion, placing his hand on Ji Yushan's shoulder and saying he would always be his brother and must be his bravest brother. Ji Yushan took a deep breath, confirmed, and pulled a compound 5 pill from his pocket, unhesitatingly putting it in his mouth. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh, commenting that they all like taking drugs, and although he had always looked down on these self-destructive, one-time use drugs in the past, seeing his opponents use drugs still gave him a chill down his spine. Compound number 5 works incredibly fast, rapidly burning away a person's potential, and overuse can even be fatal. However, Ji Yushan was already prepared to die, so he unleashed his power without holding back. A towering green flame erupted around him, instantly transforming a 1,000-meter radius into a green sea of fire. Zhang Yi, Sun Lushuan, and Deng Shintong quickly retreated, unwilling to let this flame of unknown composition touch them. Then, hundreds of soldiers nearby were unable to retreat in time and were instantly engulfed by the flames. In the blink of an eye, green flames spewed from their 7 orifices, and they were burned to ashes, screaming in agony. Strangely, their clothes and weapons remained undamaged, only their flesh and internal organs were reduced to ashes. Ji Yushan slowly raised the massive green battle sword, his eyes turned completely green, and his body was enveloped in terrifying green flames, and he shouted great annihilation. When a captain-level figure goes completely berserk, no one can help but tremble. Gao Changkong led his men out of the spatial portal one by one, and Zhang Yi and the others were powerless to stop him. After all, no one could overcome Ji Yushan, the Grim Reaper. Ji Yushan threw his head back and laughed wildly, a final celebration of someone about to give up on life. When a person is fearless of death, nothing in this world can bind him. Flames surged wildly, indiscriminately slaughtering everyone around. Zhang Yi sensed something was wrong and silently retreated behind the others, knowing Ji Yushan was destined to die and there was no need for him to risk his life against a dead man. He said he'd protect Commander Zhu and told the others to deal with this guy, then tried to slip away. But Grandpa Sun Lushuan grabbed his arm and said with a smile that the reincarnation squad had all run away, Commander Zhu was safe now, and they should fight the enemy together.
Zhang Yi's expression darkened, and he nodded helplessly in agreement.
Meanwhile, Zhu Zhang had already left the war zone under the protection of Lan Xinxing, and after escaping, his first action was to pull out his satellite phone and contact the distant Shangjing regional headquarters, saying, "Hello, this is Zhu Zhang from the Jiangnan region. Execution code, Tiger." On the main battlefield, facing the determined Ji Yushin, Zhang Yi and his two companions dared not be careless. Sun Lushuan reminded them that they must control him, otherwise, Blizzard City would be in complete chaos.
Deng Shintong immediately activated the Great Sumeru environment, using illusion magic to influence Ji Yushin.